But then finally the masses wake up. And when they wake up, people, it's too late. And that's why you have to get out of Dodge while you have some time. And by that I mean having some other kind of money outside the current system. And there's really only two kinds of money that have survived through periods like this. Monday, May 5th, 2025, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So yes, we're the home of alternative economics, and we've been warning about currency collapse or hyperinflation or crackup boom for about 10 years, ever since we started this channel in late 2015. And it looks like it's becoming more and more mainstream. Not completely out there, but I noticed that Warren Buffett, in his final annual shareholder meeting, and I say final because he's retiring, and I'm sure he'll probably be attending those, even though he'll be retired in the future. He warned of runaway inflation. He said that it's never happened before in the United States, but I'll have to correct him on that. But what we're going to do today is look at this book here, Ludwig von Mises' Human Action, and we're going to go to chapter 18 on indirect exchange and section 8, where he talks about inflation, how it evolves, and how it eventually ends, because it's a policy. Inflation is not something natural. It's a government and central banking policy, and it always ends in disaster. And before we start, just like to thank all of you again for your interest in the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you enjoy my posts, make sure you do. And I like to give a shout out to my affiliates this morning in the precious metal space, Miles Franklin in the USA. If you want to find out the details of how to get in touch with them to buy gold and silver, all the details are below in the description. Make sure you tell them that Mario sent you, or Maneco 64. Here in the UK, it's Gold Investments. They've been in business since 1981, family-run business. And again, check the description of the video for details. You can also call them and talk to them. You can even go to their offices in London. And the final affiliate is Dirty Men Safe. It's a great way to keep some of your valuables safe. And we've been working with them for over 2 years. And yes, if you use my link below, you get a 10% discount. So back to hyperinflation. Warren Buffett called it runaway inflation. I'm sure he didn't want to spook his shareholders or the world and start talking about hyperinflation, but that's what it is, because he actually said we've never had it. But there was a time in the United States, and it was actually before the United States was created as a political entity. It was in 1780 that we had runaway inflation, and we're going to look at that today by referring to Human Action and Ludwig von Mises. And yes, I've spoken about this many times, and many of you are aware of this, but it's always great to do a refresher, especially in a time where it seems that we are on the cusp of something monetary happening. I definitely think things are heating up. And for those of you who never heard of Human Action, and it's considered the Bible of the Austrian School of Economics, arguably. I'll find a link to it and I'll put it below in the description. I think you can get a free PDF or you could buy the whole thing. So let's go to the chapter on indirect exchange, chapter 18, if I'm not mistaken, and it's section 8, and it's entitled "The Anticipation of Expected Changes in Purchasing Power." This is going to take a little while. It's not that long, but I think it's really important to read the whole section. In the past, I've read like the final part of it, but I think it's important for us to touch upon the whole process of inflation. So here we go. The deliberations of the individuals which determine their conduct with regard to money are based on their knowledge concerning the prices of the immediate past. If they lacked this knowledge, they would not be in a position to decide what the appropriate height of their cash holdings should be and how much they should spend for the acquisition of various goods. A medium of exchange without a past is unthinkable. So there you go. That's really interesting. That's why gold and silver is so important, because the money that we use today, the paper money, they derive their value from gold and silver ultimately. And it's all this information about prices has been passed on through generations. and it's that's why the price of gold and silver are so important. Nothing can enter into the function of a medium of exchange which was not already previously an economic good and to which people assigned exchange value already before it was demanded as such a medium. So there is no real exchange value for paper money. The reason why it has some is because it was a promissory note for gold and silver, and prior to gold and silver becoming media of exchange, they used to be used in transactions, in direct exchange, and then through custom and time they became money and currency for that matter. But the purchasing power handed down from the immediate past is modified by today's demand for and supply of money. Human action, well, that's the name of the book, Human Action, is always providing for the future, be it sometimes only the future of the impending hour. He who buys for future consumption and production, as far as he believes that the future will differ from the present and the past. He modifies his valuation and appraisement. This is no less true with regard to money than it is with regard to all vendible goods. In this sense, we may say that today's exchange value of money is an anticipation of tomorrow's exchange value. The basis of all judgments concerning money is its purchasing power as it was in the immediate past. But as far as cash-induced changes in purchasing power are expected, a second factor enters the scene: the anticipation of these changes. He who believes that the price of the goods in which he takes an interest will rise, buys more of them than he would have bought in the absence of this belief. Accordingly, he restricts his cash holding. He who believes that prices will drop restricts his purchase and thus enlarges his cash holdings. As long as such speculative anticipations are limited to some commodities, they do not bring about a general tendency toward change in cash holding. But it is different if people believe that they are on the eve of big cash-induced changes in purchasing power, when they expect that the money prices of all goods will rise or fall. They expend or restrict their purchases. These attitudes strengthen and accelerate the expected tendencies considerably. This goes on until the point is reached beyond which no further changes in the purchasing power of money are expected. Only then does this inclination to buy or sell stop, and do people begin again to increase or decrease their cash holdings. But if once public opinion is convinced that the increase in the quantity of money will continue and never come to an end, and that consequently the prices of all commodities and services will not cease to rise, everybody becomes eager to buy as much as possible and to restrict his cash holding to a minimum size. For under these circumstances, the regular costs incurred by holding cash are increased by the losses caused by the progressive fall in purchasing power. Well, think about negative interest rates, real negative interest rates, and don't trust the CPI numbers from the government. The advantages of holding cash must be paid for by sacrifices which are deemed unreasonably burdensome. This phenomenon was in the great European inflations of the 20s called the flight into real goods, or Flucht in die Sachwerte in German, or crackup boom, or the Katastrophenhause. The mathematical economists, well, that's the Keynesians, are at a loss to comprehend the causal relation between the increase in the quantity of money and what they call velocity of circulation. The characteristic mark of this phenomenon is that the increase in the quantity of money causes a fall in the demand for money. The tendency toward a fall in purchasing power, as generated by the increased supply of money supply, right, is intensified by the general propensity to restrict cash holdings which it brings about. Eventually, a point is reached where the prices at which people would be prepared to part with real goods discount to such an extent that the expected progress in the fall of purchasing power that nobody has a sufficient amount of cash at hand to pay them. The monetary system breaks down. All transactions in the money concerned cease. A panic makes its purchasing power vanish altogether. People return either to barter or to the use of another kind of money. And of course, this has been happening all over the world in less developed countries. It's been happening in Argentina, Lebanon, Turkey, Venezuela. But for some reason, people tend to think that it can never happen here. And by here, I mean in the UK, in the US, and Europe. Well, in Europe, it happened about 100 years ago. Anyway, let's continue. The course of a progressing inflation is this. At the beginning, the inflow of additional money makes the prices of some commodities and services rise. Other prices rise later. The price rise affects the various commodities and services, as has been shown, at different dates and to a different extent. The first stage of the inflationary process may last for many years. Well, it's been going on since 1971 in the West, so about 54 years. While it lasts, the price of many goods and services are not yet adjusted to the altered money relation. There are still people in the country who have not yet become aware of the fact that they are confronted with a price revolution, which will finally result in a considerable rise of all prices, although the extent of this rise will not be the same in the various commodities and services. These people still believe that prices one day will drop. Well, dream on. Waiting for this day, they restrict their purchases and concomitantly increase their cash holdings. Well, that's what Warren Buffett and his, Berkshire Hathaway have been doing, a third of $1 trillion in cash. But I wonder if that's going to stay in cash or near cash, which are Treasury T-bills, for much longer, if he's warning of runaway inflation. As long as such ideas are still held by public opinion, it is not yet too late for the government to abandon its inflationary policy. Do you really think politicians and also the public these days are going to abandon the inflationary policy? And why do I say the public? Well, because the public want the inflation. They want all the entitlements, all the promises they've been, all the things they've been promised by politicians. And hell will freeze over before they go deflationary, in my opinion. But then finally the masses wake up. And when they wake up, people, it's too late. And that's why you have to get out of Dodge while you have some time. And by that I mean having some other kind of money outside the current system. And there's really only two kinds of money that have survived through periods like this, and they're gold and silver. And it says here they become suddenly aware of the fact that inflation is a deliberate policy and will go on endlessly. Yes, you and I might know that, but the general public doesn't. They think inflation was created by the current inflation was Putin's fault or Brexit or COVID. And they look at inflation as CPI. They think that 2% or 3% CPI is low inflation, right? So, but when these people wake up, look out. A breakdown occurs, the crackup boom appears, everybody is anxious to swap his money against real goods, no matter whether he needs them or not, no matter how much money he has to pay for them. Within a very short time, within a few weeks or even days, the things that were used as money are no longer used as media of exchange. They become scrap paper or scrap digital entries. Nobody wants to give away anything against them. So that's when gold and silver become unobtainium. And that's why I said once this happens, it's too late. It was this that happened with the continental currency in America in 1781. So there you go, Mr. Buffett. It has happened before. With the French mandat territoriaux in 1796. Well, that was in the aftermath of the assignat that failed as well. And with the German mark in 1923. That's probably the most famous hyperinflationary collapse, of course. And he says it will happen again whenever the same conditions appear. If a thing has to be used as a medium of exchange, public opinion must not believe that the quantity of this thing will increase beyond all bounds. Inflation is a policy that cannot last. So there you go. And what do I think could be the trigger? Well, the trigger could be a next financial crisis and the reaction by central banks and governments to inundate the system with more debt and more funny money, i.e. QE and fiscal spending altogether. Then maybe people will wake up. I mean, you and I probably, who've been watching me, we are awake because we've seen how the money supply, the Fed's balance sheet has gone through the roof since '08. And yes, they kind of slow down once in a while because they don't want to wake up the public, but they can't really reverse the inflation because it would cause a massive deflationary collapse, and they don't want that. The thing is, they think they can control that, the inflation, that everything will be okay. They think they can manage people's perception of inflation. That's a very dangerous game, though, because, yeah, human action is what it's all about. It's not about Keynesian inflations that economists and central bankers, PhD people use these days. This is about psychology. It's not about cost push inflation. It's about when people don't want the money, the fiat currency anymore. And once it's triggered, it's impossible to put the genie in the box, so to speak. So I'm going to stop here and we're going to quickly look at the markets this morning. It's 20 to 9 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold, $32.63. It's up about $22. The high's been 72 and the low's been 32.36. Silver is up 32 cents or about 1%, 32.32. High's been 32.47. The Dow futures is down 230 points. The Nasdaq 100 futures down 124, and the S&P is down 34 points. The currencies are pretty steady. The dollar is weaker, though, against the yen here, down 0.5%. I saw that the Taiwan dollar, which I don't follow that much, has risen quite a bit. Apparently, it's because there's speculation they're going to come to a trade tariff agreement with the U.S. I also saw an interesting headline. Donald Trump says he will impose a 100% tariff on movies made abroad. So he wants to save Hollywood, which is suspicious. Why would you want to save Hollywood? With all the stuff that we hear about Hollywood, is that really a place worth saving? And maybe other countries are going to impose tariffs on American movies and TV programs. Who knows? But it's just getting crazier and crazier. What about the Treasury market? Well, the bond market's fairly quiet. The 10-year yield is unchanged. It's at 4.32. Tomorrow, May 6th, is the beginning of the FOMC meeting. On the 7th, on Wednesday, they will announce whether they're going to do anything with rates. I don't think they're going to change rates this time. But it's also important to listen to their projections, their dot plot charts, and also the press conference of Jay Powell. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.